my whole life has been kind of this, yes, a faith journey, but a journey that I started out kind of on in my late teens, almost early 20s of growing up. I grew up in a small Christian home. We went to a small local church where I watched my parents start ministries and lead ministries and be very active and involved in a lot of ministries. And I would classify most of my childhood as I grew up knowing a lot about who God was, and I never really knew God personally. And through all of that, I watched my parents face hardship. There's just to give some high points along the way. When I was in 8th grade, my dad was sentenced to some jail time for a crime that I thought was kind of a bogus crime, but long story short, he was sentenced to some jail time, and it really shaped my individual personality and really shaped who I was from that, because it built up a barrier in my heart of that needed to be torn down before I could come into a relationship with Christ. And I started to live out the very stereotypical male persona of I don't have any emotions and I can't show any weakness, with that situation coming upon our family, with my dad going off to jail for a short stint, and my oldest brother was away at college, and I was kind of the man of the house, so to speak. So helping my mom engage with my 2 younger siblings at the time and take care of the farm animals that we had on the farm that we grew up on, and kind of being the man of the house. So I learned how to suppress all my emotions and not show any weakness. And that kind of really led me throughout my high school journey of like, I didn't really need God because I didn't have any weaknesses that I would let be portrayed. But then my junior year of high school, I was going through some things that weren't all that bad in the grand scheme of things, but I started having some interest in a girl who I eventually married. I would say that I met a girl, but her brother has been my best friend since kindergarten, so I already knew her and I already knew her family, so it wasn't like I really met her, it's just eyes were changed. But through that process, it was shortly after we started dating, and Taylor and I started dating, that I knew I was going to marry Taylor. And I started doing a lot of deep dives introspectively of what makes a healthy marriage. I saw my parents faced with various struggles throughout their marriage, and their marriage never faltered. They had their ups and downs, but it always was consistent. And so we started engaging with a different community of believers through Marysville Grace, a church that is very near and dear to Taylor and I's heart. My parents were leading a small group, and we started meeting with their small group for a while. And we met Pastor Tyler Kramer, who was the student ministry pastor at Marysville at the time. And I was of the age that I should have gone to a student ministry. I just never did because I wasn't interested in church. I kind of rebelled from my parents in that way throughout high school. But through my relationship with Taylor, we decided we were going to get married. I asked her to marry me, and then we said, well, we need a pastor. And the only pastor friend we had at the time, really, that we had any sort of relationship was with Tyler Kramer. And through premarital counseling, just over and over and over again, God was working on my own heart, but through the faithfulness of Tyler and his commitment to the gospel, just again and again sharing the gospel with us, showing us how marriage was such a beautiful reflection of the gospel. My heart was just really captivated of if I was ever going to have a marriage that actually worked, I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed someone to intervene, and that someone was Christ into my life. But that was just the beginning of my faith journey, because I still had that wall in my heart of, hey, I don't show weakness, and I don't have emotion, because I was living out of that very stereotypical male persona. So I did what every stereotypical male would do, as I accepted Christ in my bedroom, and I told no one. So for the first really 3 years of my journey with Christ, I was probably what people would consider a closeted Christian. I just kept it to myself. I tried different things. I would jump into different Bible studies, and I was very much on a roller coaster ride of I'd have great seasons of high and great seasons of low, and really still part of a community, but not what I would consider it more of. I was still riding on the community coattails of my parents' faith. Now that I had my own personal relationship with Christ, but I was still riding on their coattails, hanging out with their friends and their people, and just kind of sticking by their side as they walked through circumstances. But it came to kind of two heads kind of collided together just with some stresses of life that we were facing. We were remodeling a house with our oldest, who was just a toddler at the time. We had some other life stressors going on, and then an incident with my youngest brother, who's adopted into the family, happened. And I really can vividly remember back to the day of where I told Taylor that I think faith's a sham, and I don't think it's worth doing. And my very faithful wife said, I think we should put all our energy to it, that we should get away from your parents, we should make this our own and see what God does. And so we did exactly that, and my life has been completely set on a whole new trajectory from that point of stepping out, of really saying, hey, how do I get plugged in my own acts of service? What can I learn about myself? What can I learn more about Christ and how to live closer, in a closer relationship with Him through those different things? And has led to, again, many ups and many downs, but has led to a great amount of growth to where now we're saying, hey, we want to be faithful to what God's called us to do. And that 2 years ago, that was stepping out of the workforce that I was in for 10 years to enter into full-time ministry. And now that we've been through the residency program up at Bellefontaine to be trained as a pastor, taking that step of faith again to move to Texas and help plant a new local church.